picture this. You're a U.S. Marine. It's 1983. You're stationed in Beirut.
Oh, wow.
It seems like just an ordinary morning, but it's 6:30 a.m. A massive explosion just rocks the city.
Oh, my God.
A truck bomb has devastated the Marine headquarters,
Wow.
killing 241 American service members. This tragic event would be forever linked to a group you might know as Hezbollah.
Right.
Today we're diving deep into their complex history, from their origins in Lebanon's really turbulent civil war to their rise as a powerful and often controversial force in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's crucial to remember that Hezbollah didn't just kind of emerge out of nowhere.
Right.
To understand their story, you need to grasp the complexities of Lebanon itself.
Okay.
A nation that's grappling with its own identity crisis. It's a mix of religions and ethnicities, and then the lingering effects of colonialism.
It sounds like this small country almost became like a microcosm of all the Middle East struggles.
Yeah.
Our sources paint a picture of a nation that's on edge with tensions kind of simmering just below the surface.
Absolutely. And one event that brought those tensions to a boil was a seemingly insignificant incident.
Right.
A bus ambush in 1975.
Okay.
It might sound minor, but this attack ignited the Lebanese Civil War.
Wow.
A conflict that would last for 15 brutal years.
I'm seeing how even small events can have such a ripple effect,
Yeah.
especially in a region as volatile as the Middle East.
Right.
What were the underlying causes that made Lebanon so susceptible to this kind of eruption?
Well, you had various factions all vying for power and influence. Lebanon's Christian communities, particularly the Maronites, were feeling increasingly threatened by the growing presence of Palestinian refugees and the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Shia Muslim community, which had long been marginalized and facing economic hardship, felt politically excluded and disenfranchised.
So you have this powder keg of resentment and distrust.
Yeah.
And then the bus attack becomes the spark that sets it all off.
Exactly, and as the Civil War raged on, it became a proxy conflict. With external powers like Israel, Syria, and various Arab states backing different factions, imagine this small country being torn apart from within and pulled in every direction by outside forces.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And it's in this chaotic environment with Lebanon literally tearing itself apart that Hezbollah emerges.
That's right. Hezbollah, meaning Party of God, arose in the 1980s, fueled by the turmoil of the Civil War and the desire for resistance against Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon.
Okay.
They positioned themselves as protectors of the Shia community, who had been neglected by the Lebanese government and targeted by other militias.
So they were born out of a need for both security and representation.
Yeah.
Our sources describe how they quickly gained support, especially among the Shia, by providing not just military protection, but also social services.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Hezbollah wasn't just about fighting. They were deeply embedded in society, filling the gaps left by a failing state.
Right.
They built schools, hospitals, and offered crucial aid, essentially becoming a state within a state.
It sounds like a shrewd strategy, addressing the immediate needs of the people while simultaneously building a loyal following. Did this approach help them consolidate their power?
Absolutely. Their social programs earned them immense goodwill and solidified their position as a powerful force within the Shia community. But it's also important to note that their rise was intertwined with the emergence of another major player, Iran's Islamic Republic.
We touched on Iran briefly, but I'm curious to understand how their involvement shaped Hezbollah's trajectory. Our sources mentioned that Iran saw an opportunity in Lebanon's turmoil.
You're right. In 1979, Iran had undergone its own revolution led by Ayatollah Khomeini, who was eager to export his vision of an Islamic state.
Okay.
Lebanon, with its significant Shia population, presented fertile ground for Iran's ambitions.
It sounds like they saw a chance to spread their influence and create an ally in the region.
Yeah.
How did this translate into practical support for Hezbollah?
Iran provided Hezbollah with extensive funding, military training, and ideological guidance, shaping them into a powerful force capable of challenging Israel. They sent members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to Lebanon, training Hezbollah fighters in guerrilla warfare tactics and instilling a deep sense of commitment to the cause.
So while Hezbollah was fighting for the Shia in Lebanon, they were also becoming a key component of Iran's regional ambitions.
Right.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity to their story.
Definitely. And as we delve further into Hezbollah's evolution, you'll see how this relationship with Iran would have profound implications for both Lebanon and the wider Middle East.
We left off with Hezbollah emerging as a powerful force in Lebanon. really intertwined with Iran's ambitions, but their transformation from a guerrilla group to a major player on the political scene, that's a fascinating chapter in itself.
Yeah, it's a story of strategic victories, shrewd political maneuvering, and yes, deepening controversies. A pivotal moment was the Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon in 2000.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't just a military victory. It was a symbolic triumph that resonated throughout the Arab world.
Our sources highlight this withdrawal as a turning point. Why was it so significant, especially in the context of Arab-Israeli relations?
Well, for decades, Israel had been seen as this invincible force,
Mhm.
particularly after their victories in 1967 and 1973.
Right,
But here you have a non-state actor,
right.
Hezbollah, managing to force them out.
Yeah.
It challenged the perception of Israeli dominance and fueled a sense of hope and possibility in the region.
So Hezbollah went from being kind of this local militia to heroes who defied the odds.
Right.
I imagine this victory significantly boosted their credibility and influence.
Absolutely. Hezbollah capitalized on this momentum, solidifying their image as Lebanon's true defenders. This newfound legitimacy allowed them to transition more actively into the political arena.
It's interesting how they managed to straddle both the military and political worlds. Did they participate in the democratic process while still maintaining their armed forces?
Precisely, Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, understood the importance of wielding power on multiple fronts.
Okay.
They participated in elections, secured seats in parliament, and became a significant force within the Lebanese government. However, they never relinquished their military wing, creating this unique hybrid structure.
This dual role must have raised concerns both within Lebanon and internationally. How did the world react to a political party that also possessed a formidable army?
It definitely sparked anxieties. Some viewed it as a dangerous precedent, blurring the lines between legitimate governance and militant activity.
Right.
The international community grappled with how to classify Hezbollah.
Right.
Were they freedom fighters, terrorists, or something in between?
It sounds like a complicated dilemma with no easy answers. But within Lebanon, how did Hezbollah navigate this dual identity?
They tried to position themselves as a responsible political actor while maintaining their commitment to armed resistance against Israel. They argued that their military wing was necessary for national defense,
Okay.
a deterrent against future Israeli aggression.
So they presented themselves as both protectors and participants in the system. Did this approach succeed in easing concerns about their growing influence?
To some extent, yes, Hezbollah's social programs and their role in resisting Israel garnered them a significant following, especially within the Shia community. They were seen as a powerful voice for the marginalized and a bulwark against external threats. However, their political ascendance wasn't without its shadows.
Our sources mention a number of controversies that began to tarnish Hezbollah's image, particularly as they gained more power. One event that stands out is the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005.
That assassination was a major turning point, sending shockwaves through Lebanon and the international community. A UN investigation implicated Hezbollah members in the attack,
Wow.
leading to widespread condemnation and accusations that they were resorting to violence to eliminate political opponents.
This incident seems to cast a dark cloud over Hezbollah's claims of being a responsible political force. How did they respond to these allegations?
Hezbollah vehemently denied any involvement in Hariri's assassination, dismissing the UN investigation as politically motivated. They attempted to deflect blame, pointing fingers at other actors in the region who might have benefited from Hariri's death.
It sounds like this event deepened existing divisions within Lebanon and further complicated Hezbollah's relationship with the international community.
Absolutely, raised serious concerns about their methods, their commitment to democratic principles, and the potential for further violence as they consolidated their power. And then just as Lebanon was beginning to recover from this trauma, another regional upheaval threw the entire Middle East into turmoil, the Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring uprisings of the early 2010s were a pivotal moment in the region's history.
Yeah.
How did these events impact Hezbollah and their position in Lebanon?
The Arab Spring presented Hezbollah with a complex dilemma.
Yeah.
On one hand, they had built their reputation on resistance against oppression and championed the rights of the downtrodden.
Right.
But on the other hand, they were closely aligned with regimes that were now facing popular uprisings.
It sounds like a moral and strategic crossroads. Did they support the demands for democracy and change, or did they side with their allies in power?
Hezbollah's response was far from uniform. They expressed support for some uprisings, particularly those directed against Western-backed regimes, but they remained staunchly opposed to others, particularly the uprising in Syria.
Syria, with its complex web of alliances and its long-standing relationship with Hezbollah, must have presented a particularly difficult challenge.
Absolutely. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad was a crucial ally of both Hezbollah and Iran.
Okay.
He had provided Hezbollah with safe haven and logistical support for years when the Syrian people rose up against Assad's regime. Hezbollah faced a pivotal decision: uphold their principles of supporting the oppressed or stand by their strategic ally.
So did they choose loyalty over principle?
Ultimately, Hezbollah made the controversial decision to intervene in the Syrian civil war on behalf of the Assad regime. They sent fighters to Syria, bolstering Assad's forces and helping to crush the rebellion. This intervention sparked outrage and condemnation from many who had previously viewed Hezbollah as a champion of the downtrodden.
This intervention seems like a stark departure from their origins as a resistance movement. How did they justify this decision, especially given the brutal tactics employed by the Assad regime?
Hezbollah framed their intervention as a fight against takfiri groups, a term often used to describe Sunni extremists who they claimed were hijacking the Syrian uprising. They argued that the fall of Assad would destabilize the region and empower these extremist forces, threatening Lebanon's security and jeopardizing the resistance axis against Israel.
But wasn't this term takfiri also used to justify the targeting of civilians and the suppression of legitimate dissent? Our sources suggest that the Syrian conflict was far more nuanced than a simple battle against extremism.
You're absolutely right. The Syrian conflict was incredibly complex, involving a multitude of actors with competing interests and ideologies. Hezbollah's use of the term takfiri was seen by many as a way to simplify the narrative and demonize their opponents, masking the brutal reality of their involvement in a bloody civil war.
So in choosing to side with Assad, did Hezbollah sacrifice their moral standing on the altar of strategic expediency?
That's a question that continues to be debated. Hezbollah's involvement in Syria had a profound impact on their image, alienating many former supporters and raising serious questions about their commitment to their founding principles. It also further entangled them in the intricate web of regional politics, drawing them deeper into a conflict with far-reaching consequences.
So we've explored Hezbollah's journey from a resistance movement that was born out of Lebanon's civil war to a powerful political and military force that's deeply involved in these regional conflicts. But as their influence has grown, so too have the controversy surrounding their actions, especially their intervention in Syria.
Yeah, their involvement in the Syrian civil war really tested the limits of their resistance narrative,
Sure.
It forced people to confront the complexities of a group that had long been portrayed in these kind of simplistic terms
Right.
as either heroic freedom fighters or dangerous terrorists.
Our sources paint a picture of an organization that's grappling with competing priorities,
Yeah.
maintaining their commitment to resisting Israel, safeguarding their interests in Lebanon, staying loyal to their Iranian patrons, and all while navigating the treacherous terrain of Middle Eastern politics.
It's a balancing act that's become increasingly difficult to maintain as we delve deeper into Hezbollah's ideology and their relationship with Iran. I think we can start to understand the factors that drive their decision-making and perhaps anticipate their future trajectory.
Let's unpack their ideology then. What are the core principles that motivate Hezbollah, and how have those principles evolved over time?
Well, at Hezbollah's core lies this concept of resistance. Resistance against oppression, injustice, and foreign domination. It's a powerful message that resonates deeply within a region that has experienced centuries of conflict and exploitation.
That makes sense, given their origins fighting against Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon. But how has this concept of resistance been applied to other conflicts and situations?
That's where things get a little complicated. Initially, their focus was primarily on Israel, but as their influence expanded, so too did their definition of what constituted a threat worthy of resistance. They began to view the U.S. as the root cause of many regional problems, aligning themselves with Iran's anti-Western ideology.
So their resistance expanded from a localized struggle against Israeli occupation to a broader rejection of Western influence in the region.
Exactly, and this shift is intertwined with their relationship with Iran. It goes beyond mere tactical alliances.
Right.
There's a deeper ideological alignment at play. Both Hezbollah and Iran view themselves as champions of the oppressed, fighting against what they perceive as Western imperialism and Israeli aggression.
But to what extent are Hezbollah's actions driven by their own ideology versus the dictates of Iran? Are they truly an independent actor, or are they merely a proxy force carrying out Tehran's bidding?
It's a question that has fueled much debate. Hezbollah undoubtedly benefits from Iranian support financially, militarily, and ideologically. They share common enemies and strategic goals. However, Hezbollah also has its own distinct interests in Lebanon.
Right.
They have a large and loyal following, they've built a robust social and political infrastructure, and they have a vested interest in maintaining stability within Lebanon, even if that sometimes means acting in ways that diverge from Iran's preferences.
So it's a complicated relationship, more nuanced than a simple puppet master scenario.
Precisely, Hezbollah has demonstrated a degree of autonomy in their decision-making, particularly when it comes to Well, firstly, the situation in Lebanon is crucial.
Yeah.
The country is facing a multitude of challenges: an economic crisis, political instability, social unrest. Hezbollah's deep involvement in Lebanon's institutions means they can't escape responsibility for these problems. They'll need to navigate these challenges carefully to maintain their popular support.
And of course, the ongoing tensions with Israel remain a constant threat.
Yeah.
Any escalation could quickly spiral into a wider conflict with devastating consequences for Lebanon and the region.
Absolutely. The recent exchanges of fire between Hezbollah and Israel are a stark reminder of how volatile the situation remains.
Right.
It's a powder keg that could ignite at any moment. Another factor to watch is the evolving regional landscape.
Okay.
The power dynamics in the Middle East are constantly shifting, with new alliances forming and old rivalries resurfacing. Hezbollah will need to adapt to these changes to maintain their relevance and protect their interests.
So what is the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be paying attention to as Hezbollah's story continues to be written?
I think the key is to understand that Hezbollah is not this monolithic entity.
Right.
They're a complex organization with multiple facets operating on multiple levels and pursuing a multifaceted agenda. They're simultaneously a political party, a social service provider, a militant group, and a key player in regional power struggles.
Yeah.
Their actions are driven by a mix of pragmatism ideology and strategic calculations.
It sounds like understanding Hezbollah requires us to move beyond simplistic labels
Yeah.
and embrace the complexities of their history, their motivations, and the regional dynamics at play.
Yeah.
We can't simply categorize them as good guys or bad guys.
Yeah.
The reality is far more nuanced.
Exactly. And as we've seen throughout this deep dive, their story is intertwined with the broader struggles of the Middle East, the fight for power and identity, the clash between different ideologies, the legacies of colonialism and foreign intervention. It's a story that will continue to shape the region for years to come.
Well, it's safe to say we've only scratched the surface of Hezbollah's complex and often contradictory history. They remain a force to be reckoned with, but their future trajectory is uncertain. One thing is for sure, their story is far from over. We'll be watching closely to see how they navigate the challenges ahead and what role they'll play in shaping the future of the Middle East. If you found this deep dive into Hezbollah's history illuminating, make sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations of complex topics, hidden histories, and the surprising connections that shape our world. Thanks for listening.